So the Trump tapes are having an effect in all sorts of states. We've broken down in Utah, which should be a Trump state. It's having an effect, but also in important swing states. Just over the past few days, huge swings towards Hillary Clinton, coming for the most part from Donald Trump, in some cases from third-party candidates. So if we bring up this chart, you're going to see over the past couple of weeks, the part that you want to see is basically that last section from October 2nd to October 9th. And you see marked there up near the top when the video was released of Trump's grab him by the crotch comments. And you see the shooting up of support, especially there in Ohio, where Hillary Clinton had actually been down slightly, moving into positive numbers there, but also going up in states like Florida, North Carolina, shooting up in Pennsylvania, which is another one of those states where if Hillary Clinton wins, Donald Trump effectively has no chance whatsoever. And so it had already been trending towards her, but it accelerated once the tape had come out.
So what's going to drive me a little crazy is that some of the establishment folks are going to get to have their smug face on Election Day. They're like, oh, we knew that Hillary Clinton was going to win all along. No, you didn't know. And she was losing in Ohio. Earlier, she was, basically tied in Florida. Mm-hmm. And I saw a polling average on Real Clear Politics where she was losing in Florida.
And in Pennsylvania, she's sometimes been up by only 2 or so.
Right. Now, Pennsylvania, I think she was going to win all along, but it got really close in a ton of places, and she easily could have lost. If she'd lost Colorado or Virginia, it was over. Mm-hmm. In fact, she could have just lost New Hampshire and still lost if she lost Ohio and Florida, right? Yeah. So you didn't know. And this election was super close.
And it's not over.
No, I know. But we will likely look back and go, oh my God, those tapes were devastating.
Probably, yeah.
Right? So why were they devastating? 2 reasons. One, because the country cares 50% about sex, 50% about everything else in the world, right? So like if you've got anything that involves sex or grabbing by the crotch or whatever, that's it. Oh my God, that's the only thing that existed. He was going to kick out 11 million families that live here. Who cares?
Build a wall, ban
he was going to do
Muslims.
bigotry. Who cares, right?
Camps.
He's wildly incompetent. Who cares? Oh my God, he talked about a woman's genitalia and batten down the hatches, right? So the whole country pays attention to that. They don't pay attention to the other stuff. And that's number one. And number two is that the Republican women were hanging on by a thread because it was a tipping point. To be fair, it was not the only thing. It was that all of this had built up, and then he put that last straw on the camel's back. And Republican men, it didn't affect that much at all. Republican men were like, oh yeah, you know.
Yeah, he might have ticked up a little bit.
But with the Republican women, they're like, no, I don't want you to grab me there. No, I'm done with this guy.
Cenk, can you imagine how much trouble we could have avoided as a country, how much heartbreak and news that we didn't want to have to talk about if on that first day he had just gone down the escalator and said, I'm going to throw out every goddamn Mexican by grabbing them by the pussy and throwing them across the border? We could have avoided all this trouble. The whole annoying primary, unfortunately, we had to go through it. Now, we also want to show what happened in another state, Wisconsin, which is another state that now looks like she's definitely going to win, but had been closer. So if we could bring up graphic 8, you're going to see there the change in a couple of specific demographics. So you have from a day before the tapes to 1 and 2 days after the tapes. His evangelical support dropped by 24 points in 3 days. Men by 13 points, women by 24. There's still a few women sticking in there. But yeah, white people with a college degree, it dropped 42 points in 3 days. Now again, this is just one poll, but it's Marquette University. They're well known in terms of their polling. And who knows, it could stabilize, and that's just Wisconsin. But I mean, it's frustrating on one level that this is what affects it, that it's not, oh, our enemies should have nukes and it would be great if we could use nukes casually, or I'm going to tank the U.S., I'm going to default on the debt and possibly ruin the world economy. It should have been that stuff, but at least it is happening. And looking ahead to, we've seen ups and downs before. After the RNC, he was very close to parity. And after her email scandal became really big again, it got really close. That could happen again. But it becomes more difficult now to imagine what it is that would move that. I mean, there are endless more tapes and transcripts that are going to come out about Donald Trump. We've seen 1 or 2 today about how he would stay with his wife if she was horribly disfigured, if only her breasts remain in pristine condition. Then he'll stay with her.
No, he's done,
He
man.
said that. And so on Hillary's side, I mean, the email thing could come up again. There are going to be 5,000 WikiLeaks released emails every single day.
Unless there's a reference to genitalia in the WikiLeaks, it's not going to make a difference.
And here's why. And this is not assessing the content or whether it should matter. This is just whether it will likely matter for the general election population. We're already in early voting. Like, some people they're done with the election at this point, and every day that number gets bigger. Every day people are more decided about who they're going to vote for. So to find out that all of our suspicions about the DNC's manipulations during the primary were true, and that her campaign had been 100% arrogant and aggressive against Bernie Sanders from the very beginning was true, that stuff is very interesting and damning for some people's career perhaps. But that's not going to move 10% of the general election population at this point.
We're not saying it's not important. We're
just assessing likely impact on the electorate.
Yeah, if you think that the WikiLeaks things are going to move 10% of the population, you don't live in America.
Unless they have access to sources that we don't yet know about. Nothing that other people emailed to Podesta.
It's not going to move it. I love you, but you're in a fantasy world if you think Americans care that much about substance. They're like, what was her position on fracking? Oh no, forget it. I'm voting for Trump. It's just I
wish people cared that much about fracking.
Look, I care that much about it, and I wish people were that way, but they're not that way. They're just so you have to work on that a long, long time for that to move people's position. Yeah. It doesn't happen in 20 some odd days when everybody is talking about genitalia. That's just the world we live in. All right, look, I think that this Wisconsin poll is even more evidence that he really, really could have won. And so to me, I thought Wisconsin was always a Clinton state. Mm-hmm. I never had in any scenario where she loses Wisconsin. And besides which, if she lost Wisconsin, that means she lost everywhere. Yeah. That meant that she would have lost Pennsylvania and would have gotten routed, right? But look at it. On Thursday, she was at -1. Trump was winning before the tapes. Mm-hmm. After the tapes, just 3 days later, she's at +19. Do you think the tapes made a difference? Of course! They made all the difference. All the difference. And it's not just one poll.
Maybe it was Ken Bone.
It's not just one poll. In Wisconsin, she was only up 2 in a combination of the polls in September. And now, in a combination of the polls, she's up 7.
And one poll had her up 14.
Yeah, the difference between 2 and 7 is good night, Irene.
Well, and it's also, a lot of people have been saying, people come up after the Fusion show and suggest stuff they want us to talk about, and they say you should be focusing more on the House and what's going to happen there and ballot measures and all that, and you're totally right. This is getting towards the point where if it gets a little bit worse, I mean, it's still extremely unlikely that the House could actually flip. Anonymous Democrat is up 4 or 5 points over an anonymous Republican, which is, because of the way our system is structured, not enough to flip 31 seats in the House. But if she's up by 9 or 10 points nationally, 11, 12 points nationally, which seems impossible, then you're getting into the territory where that could potentially be enough to flip the House, which seemed like a fantasy 6 months ago and has much more to do with Donald Trump than it does with Hillary Clinton, but it's not impossible right now.
Yeah, so we're in that world now. Look, tick-tock, tick-tock. Give me till the end of the week, and then I just need a couple more polls in a couple more swing states, and the gavel is coming. It's floating. It's up on the top rope, ready to drop any day now.